right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning into our bi-weekly at this point, which is have some updates on that stream. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get started, shall we? So, just brief introduction of who I am and what we're doing here. So, my name is Ethan Pressberg, and I work on the innovations team at ProcessMaker. And ProcessMaker is a low, no-code application, platform building tool. It's a lot of things. That probably wasn't a very good way of describing it. But if you're here, hopefully you know what ProcessMaker is, and you're interested enough in to understand how to install it. And I've been there myself, where coming into PM4, where it's totally, completely a different paradigm than ProcessMaker 3. It can be a little daunting. So thought this might be helpful for folks trying to figure out how to get that to be installed. So I mentioned that we're going to be changing the format a little bit. So we have been doing this bi-weekly, and we're going to start to do this. Hopefully we're going to try to see if we can get it going weekly. And we expect to have also feature folks from our engineering department, as well as our product department, maybe professional services. We'll see how it goes, where we can start talking about, other areas of the company, really, not just, here's tutorials, here's how you do stuff, but really kind of opening up a bit more and talking about, features that are coming out or that have just come out, and, all sorts of things, good things to come. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get into it. So the problem statement is you want to try out ProcessMaker, the latest version, and even though it's not open sourced on GitHub, it's still a bit difficult for many people to understand and to be able to to actually get the installation going. And like I said, I had the same problem. So we have an internal script that this was originally based off of, that we've open sourced, and if you're watching this, there should be in the description, there should be a link to the repository on GitHub, which is open sourced, that I'm about to walk through, and it will that's literally what we're going to be working with. So and it uses the open source edition, so to preempt any questions, this is available and can be used by enterprise and open source alike. So feel free to fork it, go nuts. Okay, so let me give you, now that I've explained that, I should have had this up, my bad. Let's give a brief kind of overview of the repository. Now I do apologize for the brevity of the README. If anybody sees this, wants to contribute, we're always we're an open source company, so we're always happy to collaborate. But otherwise, when I'm able to, I'll get a chance to update it. But it's really kind of self-explanatory if you're familiar with Docker Compose. And so the Docker Compose file is really where the magic happens. So this is the file that is used, right? So just gonna walk through it at a high level. I'm not gonna go into every detail unless y'all want me to and have questions, but otherwise, so we've got so firstly, what is Docker, right? Docker, for those that may not know, is a way of using containerization as a means of deployment and development, and it's basically associated at this point with the word container. And so Docker, so what happens when you want to create a solution of Docker containers? Well, you need to be able to orchestrate that, and there are many solutions out there. Docker Compose is one solution for such. There's others out there that do similar things. So, but Docker Compose is really easy, really easy to use and get started because it's so mainstream, I guess. It's what I used to personally. So the way that you would do that through a Docker compose situation here is you need to create versus network, because you're going to have your containers and everything communicate with each other. And so you need to have your own network, which is very important. And then you also need to have, this gets very important later, because having separate volumes that will reside on the host machine makes it just like 10x powerful. And I'll touch on that later. So, and then we get to the actual containers, or what we call here the services. So we've got a container, and I'll show you soon in the command line. I realize now that this is probably very tiny for people watching on my big screen, so I apologize for that. Hopefully this is a bit better. Where were we? Right. So we were MySQL. So this is it's a container, standard definition, some port mappings, environment variable definitions. I mean, obviously this is open source, so I highly encourage anyone using this to, if they even remotely think about using this for anything but testing it out, please change the password. Friendly reminder. And then it also adds a convenience for us, which is PHPMyAdmin, which I will also show. It's an awesome tool. Makes it super easy for us to be able to access the backend database of ProcessMaker and play around with it and really kind of get into the soup and nuts of everything. Then we've got Redis, which is what we use for our queue management. So Redis, and you probably noticed networks. We're all on ProcessMaker, network, all on ProcessMaker, so that we can all communicate. Now, in this case, we're forwarding port 8080 to port 80, so that we can keep the main ProcessMaker container, which I'm about to show you, on port 80, and still be able to use the same domain. In this case, obviously localhost, but with a different port. So we're doing that port mapping or remapping or whatever as well. Then we've got the Docker container, which is what is used to create the Docker container. And ProcessMaker is the actual web server where Nginx is installed and then it gets deployed from. So and here you see we just map straight out port 80. So ProcessMaker application is on port 80, and then the PHPMyAdmin application web app is on port 8080. And they're separate containers. And the beauty of it is, one of the things I love about just the way this works is that it's all on the same network. So therefore, you can have, as long as you've got one MySQL container right here, you can have however many ProcessMaker instances you want, and all you need is that one MySQL and the one PHPMyAdmin, and then you just create multiple servers if you wanted to do that. So it just makes for really easy kind of like testing new versions and new features, and kind of just it's awesome. That's why we're all here, right? Now, some other things I want to call attention to that's important to note is under the volumes for the ProcessMaker. So the bulk of your attention will probably be around the ProcessMaker container, right? And so this is pulling an image that our CloudOps team or DevOps team, I'm not sure which one, they have made, which is fully supporting. I'm losing my English. Fully supported by the product, and the product has certain requirements. Like for example, if we hopped over to our product's main repo, I believe it should say here some of the requirements, right? So we require at least PHP 8.1. We require MySQL 8, Nginx. I'm sure there's a version in that section. So there are certain requirements needed to run ProcessMaker, and it can be a real pain when you're dealing with everything from PHP versions and extensions to web server versions and different databases and queuing technologies, etc. So that's kind of what that does for us, is it has that image with all the things, all the libraries, all the packages, everything that it needs. It's all kind of baked in to this nice one. And in fact, There is another one for other versions, but you know we're on this version, so this is sure why I mentioned that. Anyways, right. So back to volume. So volumes, we've got 3 important places that we need to think about. So the /ProcessMaker. So as part of this script right now, you don't see it in the repo because it pulls it down from this from the same place it pulls the rest of it from, and it downloads the ProcessMaker source code, which we will tell it which source code to download. One of the build steps is that it downloads the source code, and it downloads it to a local on my host, and then it maps it to the container path, which we pretty much always use as standard is opt ProcessMaker. So that's the first one. So firstly, I'll get into what this means in a second. So we've got the environment file. That is your main environment file for the application. So you might have different keys and different values and different things that you want to maintain there that are different for each deployment, and you can simply modify it there, and then it'll be automatically reflected live there. And then you've got your scripts. Scripts are you could think of this as replace with whatever name you want, because these are basically the way that I personally use it is like if I'm working on a package or some kind of project that works with that container that has to be run on the same container, then I'll usually put it in scripts so that I can use it outside on my host and easily interact with it without necessarily interfering with the ProcessMaker code base and application, if that makes sense. So now why is this important to realize? Because there's so much you can do now that that it's on the host machine, so on my actual physical computer instead of in memory in the virtual Docker container. That when it shuts down, it's gone. No, it's not that. It's not gone. So what does this mean? It means I can still maintain my version control. It means that I can back it up really easily. I'm not sure why it doesn't say here, but there's also another directory of data where the MySQL database files also are on the host machine. So it makes backing up super duper easy. The guy who wrote this on the team, on the DevOps team, is a genius. You know who you are, and you're a genius. Yeah, I said that. So the rest of it is boilerplate. This is if you want to just use straight up Docker Compose YAML and your experience, then just replace this with whatever value you want. Otherwise, the way that you can execute it is through the installation file, and it'll prompt you for what version you want. So it's basically just putting it there, just an convenience wrapper. So, and just as a reminder, please feel free to add comments, ask questions. I'm happy to engage as I go, and even happy to go off in different directions if people are curious about some of the stuff. Okay. So now that we walked through that, let me actually walk through setting it up. So if we switch over to my console here, my terminal. So I'm in a fresh directory here. So I'm just gonna start as if I didn't have anything, although that's not entirely true, because if I do a docker ps-a, obviously, well, this is a huge font, so this is a lot there, but there's a lot of containers that I've got that are obviously already set. I've got other instances, and I also already have downloaded all the different images that are necessary multiple times. So the first time you set this up, it's going to take about 20. Well, honestly, it depends really on your internet connection more than anything, because these are large files. We're talking about close to this one's 1.6 gigs. This is 5 gigs. This is the main one. That's the biggest one, I think, which is about 5 gigs. So I'm actually saying that I remembered. So I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to go into one of my main environments, so and just show you how it works there. So this is so here, if we just look at my directory here, like we saw, we've got the Docker compose file. This is actually the repo that it was based off of. That was our internal one, but it's exactly the same thing. There's literally no difference. And so we've got the environment file that we saw that we saw mapping from on the logical volumes. We've got the Docker compose file that we just looked at, and then here's that other folder I was talking about for the MySQL data that resides in here. So if I were to just list out the MySQL data, then you can see here we've got all the information that you would expect from it, although I thought there would be other files here. But I'm sure they're buried somewhere in there, but I'm not going to waste time on that. But the point is, if you back this up, you'll be backing up your database too. And then inside scripts, I probably, since this is an actual thing I use, yeah, I've got this. So like I said, when I'm working on packages, that's my main use case for having it. It's nice because then I can just come in here. This is my host, by the way. I'm using Windows. Although I'm using Windows, I'm actually using Ubuntu because since I'm using the WSL integration. So that's why I'm using Linux here. In case you were wondering. So these are some of the packages that I was looking at or working on or something. And so I can just go in from my main computer. Let's say the package ChatGPM that we looked at last week. If I go into there, so you can see I've been working on it. And you can see that my ZSH is telling me I'm in the master branch of the ChatGPM repo, which itself is just a package, right? So, but the point is, whenever I am running my container, I make changes here and it reflects live. To me personally, that's been huge. Awesome. So let's go back up here. So what we got is the Docker compose and the environment file. I won't bore you with all that. I'm just going to do a simple, you know what, just do a Docker, let's try a Docker compose up. And then you see here the since I already downloaded it and created the containers and stuff, it obviously skipped a lot of that, but you'll see that it'll download, it'll take a bit to download the images and stuff, and then after that it'll go through the build steps to create the containers. And now that once the containers are run, they can go, it just goes through the steps to set it up, because of course you've got the different containers and they all gotta start in the right way and connect each other, etc. Right? And then finally your thumbs up when you see the Laravel Echo server formatted like this. Okay, we're good, no problems really, usually at least. And you can see that this is also tailing the horizon queue that is inside the container. So now if I were to well, that was before. If I were to do that again, or actually, hang on, this is kind of small for you guys, isn't it? Let me enlarge it a bit. What is the minimum requirements? Thanks for asking that, Sebastian. So the minimum requirements, you can go to our GitHub repository. So just go to github.com. In fact, I'll make your life easy and I'll just paste it for you directly in the chat. So just click on that link right there and just literally scroll down the README and you'll see what the system requirements are. All right, buddy? Hopefully that helps you out, and let me know if you have any questions or anything. But so what I was just gonna make this a little bit bigger now that we're doing this, and say let's just see what Docker containers we got running here. And because it's so big, it's so formatted ugly. That wasn't good English. Just make it a little bit smaller so I can see what's going on. So we got some containers going because my Docker compose up went up. And yeah, no problem. Anytime, Sebastian. Anytime, man. So I said we got the phpMyAdmin. We've also got the ProcessMaker, and you can modify if I jump back over to the repo here. You can modify the ports to be whatever you want. So if you want, for example, this to be port 81. You can, let's say you're running 10 different instances, you can run port 81, map port 81 to it, and then you just in your host, you know where you're pointing to the right Docker container. But point is, you can change it. That's how it tells it. It's very simple. You know, it's kind of simple Docker terminology. So, anyways, so to see that it's working, let's go to localhost, and I'm actually gonna make that to the side here so we can kind of see the logs that happen, just to prove that out here. So if I go to localhost, and here's my ProcessMaker screen, the default will be admin, and you just log in. And since this is an instance that I've already been using, of course, I've got data and I've got things here that are already set up, right? And so, I mean, this is all interacting with that container. And we talked about phpMyAdmin as well. So, and you can see in the background, the save search jobs are running. So we see localhost 8080, and that takes me to my phpMyAdmin, and this is going to be, I think it's my, if I remember, my MySQL root, and then that password that we saw. I probably didn't put the password in correctly. Let's take a double. Let me just copy paste it from here. Right. I probably didn't do the uppercase W. Maybe. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Cool. So this is my my MySQL container database, and I see that there's stuff going on here, even though I'm not doing anything. Oh no, actually I am. Yeah. What am I talking about? I'm in phpMyAdmin, so you can see that this is actually reflecting, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. So PM4, that's what I called my database, and here I go. I got all my stuff, my whole database. I can literally have access. I don't have to go via CLI. Because I was doing that for a while. I was, doing everything in MySQL with command line, and I mean, I can do it and it works, but phpMyAdmin just makes it like infinitely easier, like exporting to CSV and just all the conveniences, as y'all I'm sure are fully aware of. So that's kind of pretty much the gist of it, I think. Let me think if there's anything else that I haven't covered. Of course, I'm always happy to answer questions, but it's really that easy, guys. Like, if let's just close this down now, and just, I won't go through the whole process, but just so you can kind of like see how the building of it goes. It's literally you can make this like click a button, deploy ProcessMaker. Literally, that's how easy this is, which is why I've been so enthusiastic about this, or a part of it at least. So let's go into here. Nothing in here, right? So let's do a git clone. Let me just copy the repo so I don't have to pretend to know how to spell. And code, probably because of the resolution. Yeah, there we go. And then what happened to the SSH option? Am I crazy? Oh, because I'm in incognito. Okay, 1 second. Well, at least you know that it works. APM core. There we go. Okay, so now that I got that, we can come back here and just git clone that, and then let's go into PM core Docker, the repo. Remember, we just fresh installation, and all I'm gonna do is do sh install.sh, and then it's gonna prompt me, what version of ProcessMaker open source would you like to install? Press enter for latest dev release. That's the default option, which I do not recommend if this is your first time. I highly do not recommend this. That if your first time, do not use the do not use that. Okay. What you want to do is you want to come over here to ProcessMaker's repo. Then what you want to do is you want to look under branches. So if you're comfortable knowing what's in a branch and you know a specific branch, go for it. But otherwise, what I normally do is, and the way that our product team releases it is, and obviously I can see additional releases that maybe you don't because of of corporate stuff, but you should see all the public releases. So like 4.4.0, 4.4.1. So let's say 4.4.1. We want to install version 4.4.1 of ProcessMaker. So I'll go version 4.1. .4.1, and it takes that, and now you can see it's running. And I'm going to zoom out just because it's going to go really fast and you're not going to really be able to see much unless I kind of zoom out. I know it's a bit big, but how will logs be managed? Is this automated in any way? Tell me more, Michael. What are you asking about in terms of logs? Because there are logs. Yes, there's logs out the wazoo. So can you be a little more specific for me, please? Otherwise, I can also show some of the logs after this finishes running. Not sure what the delay is like between YouTube, because I'm used to streaming on Twitch. So I don't know if it's like immediate or like 10 minutes. It depends on the streaming service. But meanwhile, while I'm waiting, we're waiting, is if I go into, well, they're not running, so actually I can't go in and show you yet. So, but I'm actually just gonna cancel this here, because like I said, this is the part that takes the longest. Is like before I just it ran up, right? But here, this is going and downloading everything, generating, building the images, and then you got to do the containers. And this could, on my internet, it'll take me another probably 20-30 minutes or so. So, and I just realized that the camera is off center here. Okay, I think, I don't know. And yeah, so let's just go and stop this. And then I'm going to go back to the other one I had, just so I can show you real quick what some of the logs look like. Okay, so before I do, let me just check, make sure nothing's up. Okay, and click netstat. Okay, cool. So let's do a docker compose up, just to get it started. Once it's started, then okay, as data grows, containers grow. Can logs be mapped to a host volume? Yes. So, okay, I see what you're saying now. So yes, the answer is an enthusiastic yes. That was kind of the point I was trying to articulate earlier. Is and perhaps I didn't articulate it well enough, but if we come into here where I'm setting it up right now, so we've got what we saw in the repo, but then as part of the build process, it also downloads the right version of ProcessMaker and everything that you need, and it maps it inside the network volume to the host. So if you're saying your logs, well, there's the ProcessMaker folder. I can make this one bigger actually for you. If we go in here into the ProcessMaker folder within that the compose, then I can see this is a full ProcessMaker application, Laravel application installation. And so therefore, since that is the case, it also has the storage folder, and inside the storage folder we have the logs. and this is where all the logging happens. And of course, this is always configurable. You can configure the logs to be wherever you want it to be, but the point is, because we have this bidirectional logical volume that's shared between the hosts and the containers, it just makes all of this stuff so much easier. Like I was saying earlier, perhaps you joined late, I was saying earlier, you could also back up your entire setup as well, because this is the ProcessMaker code base with all the dependencies and everything installed. You've also got your MySQL data, literally everything that you would need to and then redeploy it with a different version of ProcessMaker. So this really opens the door to like rapid testing and experimentation, and just kind of getting your feet as wet as you possibly want them to be, so to speak. So now that it's open, I can come in. I can also just do like a tail for T storage, right? Wait, what's my present working directory? Oh, that's all. Yeah, C ProcessMaker, and then you can see that this version is actually on version 4.3.0. I was probably testing something, and we were gonna tail storage logs, and then let's say 31, since that's the one from today. And so basically this should, I think, be the same as this, or at least similar. They're both about Horizon, but so yeah, this would be the primary log. Although there are other logs in the logs folder. So you got the Horizon log, you got the Laravel log, which is basically ProcessMaker's log, because that's how we have it set up, and then there's other cases where you can have more. So I hope that answered your question, Michael. I think that was maybe a little too thorough, but hopefully that answers your question, and feel free to reach out with any more. So yeah, that kind of wraps it up, I think. Unless there's any more questions, I'd be more than happy, of course, to try and answer. But that was I mean, like I said, there's not that much to it. It's so easy. It's so easy. When I found this, I gotta say, I was looking around internally in the company. I was looking for, okay, how do you install it, and how do you install it, and then I came across this script, and I'm like, I have arrived. Literally, this script is just super easy, as you saw. All you gotta do, plug in the version. It does everything from ProcessMaker to MySQL to Redis to everything in between, and you don't have to know anything about any of that, and you can still use ProcessMaker and play with it. So I just, when I found out about it, I knew I had to put this out there, and I'm going to be evangelizing this more, so please feel free to assist in that. We want people to be able to use our product, and also, if you're watching this now or later, we would always, of course, appreciate a like and a subscribe, because that helps us, not because we want the likes or the subscriptions, but it's just because of the way the YouTube algorithm works, and we want to be able to help people. I say this genuinely. We at ProcessMaker help people in companies, and we help them solve real problems. No problem, Michael. Happy to help. And so we want to get out there to people so that they're aware. So all the liking and all that stuff that YouTubers talk about, it's really just to get out there more and increase awareness. So that's kind of why I usually say that. I won't get into that every time. I hope not. Also, if you're interested, we have a Discord server for our open source community. Also, link in the description below if you're watching this to an invite link to the Discord server. And please check out the GitHub repository, also linked in the description, that we were working with here, this one. And also, yeah, we talked about the future of the channel, not the channel, I mean of this live stream within the channel, and it's going to start looking hopefully even more more content, hopefully relevant content. Please add a comment if there's anything specific that you would like for us to kind of talk about. We'll definitely, I promise you, we will definitely consider it. We'll look through any suggestions that are interesting that people might need to know about or you want to know about. So please feel free to comment, and let us know, because the only way we can help you and go forward is together, right? Not to sound too cheesy. Anyways, so I'm rambling, and so that's my cue to wrap up. So thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the next live stream. Bye bye.